Hey, what is up guys? This is Nishi from MST.TV here, back with another Market Watch episode. So today we're going to be talking about some cards that are currently trending on the market after an interesting last week or so. Now, we're not going to comment on what some people may or may not have seen, but rather we're just going to talk about what cards are currently trending on the market, and I'll let you guys go and do your own research and come to whatever conclusions on your own. Of course, in doing so, we are going to take a look at what's happening with these trending cards right now and try to decide if these are cards that you should be looking to pick up or stay away from in case they do get reprinted in the near future. Let's get started. Kicking things off, let's talk about Sky Striker Mobilize Linkage. So this card is a quick play spell card for the Sky Striker deck. Basically, it lets you send a card you control to the graveyard to special summon a Sky Striker ace monster from your extra deck to the extra monster zone. So I think we're on like maybe the 200th wave of Sky Striker support, but I guess Konami saw that Sky Striker hasn't topped in the last 6 months and decided that they needed a boost. In Duelist Advance, which is the core set after Alliance Insight, it's been confirmed that they're getting a couple of really strong cards, including a Link 2 that can be cheated out with Linkage. It adds a Sky Striker spell instantly from your deck or graveyard to your hand, as well as it's able to special summon both Ray and Rose, as well as a new spell card that's able to help break boards pretty easily. Now, these cards actually look really strong, though we obviously don't know if Sky Strikers are going to be enough in the format at that point to be meta relevant. Nevertheless, Sky Strikers are a popular deck with a lot of players, so naturally people are going to want to jump on it and have bought out a bunch of Sky Striker cards already. Linkage is interesting because although it has had a couple of printings, it's relatively difficult to find. Now, this card was originally an ultra rare in Magnificent Mavens, but then it got reprinted in Bonanza as a QCR and Platinum Secret Rare in the Nostalgia Pool. However, with the attention that it's gotten recently, we've seen the Ultras go from being $1 or $2 to now up to $3 to $5 a piece. Even crazier though is that the Platinums have gone from being $3 to $5 to now being around $8 to $10, and then the QCRs went from $30 or $40 to now being $70 a piece. Definitely a pretty crazy price spike, and with how popular Sky Strikers are, I don't know if this is something that's going to come down eventually or if it's just going to stay relatively high. However, if you are interested in just playing the deck, you might want to consider grabbing a playset of the Ultras while they are still relatively affordable. Up next, we have Fiendsmith's Tract. So a lot of eyes are currently on the Fiendsmith engine. They've been arguably the best engine in the game over the course of the last 6 months or so, so everyone is assuming that they'll be hit in some way on the upcoming ban list. However, of course, Konami will likely want to reprint some of the cards sooner in order to sell product, which is what has pushed people to believe that Engraver will be reprinted in Stampede. Of course, the set is quite big, so there's a chance that we'll see other cards like Tract, Requiem, or Lacrima in there, but of course there's no guarantee. Long story short, Engraver has gotten a lot of attention and has fallen in price drastically, literally going from $50 to $17 over the course of the past week or so. Tract has actually gone in the opposite direction because it's believed to not be included in Stampede. Tract will still be a really strong card for the Fiendsmith engine, even if we do see a small hit like Engraver to 2 or something like that. This card is what turns on Fabled Lurie and allows you to make Requiem so easily. At the same time, I could definitely see Konami hitting Requiem or Engraver, but I don't really see them hitting Tract since it doesn't feel like it's a broken card at all, so it's most likely staying at 3, which is also why it's gotten more attention than something like Lacrima. Now that said, Tract was expensive a few months ago when everyone was playing 3 and everything, but now that everyone's kind of dialing back on it and we're seeing an increase in people playing Pure or Shark Ryzeal, we'd seen Tract fall to around $12 to $15. However, just as Engraver fell, we've seen Tract shoot up to around $25 to $27 per copy for the secret rare printing. Of course, only time is going to tell us if this card does indeed get reprinted alongside Engraver, though that is a risk you guys are going to have to take as we approach the release of Stampede. I do want to take a second to remind all of you to check out our website, MSTmerch.com. Now, over at MSTmerch.com, we have everything that you will need to optimize your Yu-Gi-Oh! Tournament experience. We have the basics with white, black, pink, and our new purple matted sleeves, which are my personal favorites, as well as smooth and matted sleeves to double sleeve your valuable cards and sleeves with for tournament play. But we also have some other items that you can really use to customize your collection. We have amazing foil sleeves, including some with the MST.TV logo, and dividers and subdividers so that you can keep your collection perfectly organized and easily accessible. Regardless of if you're a competitive or casual player, I'm certain that you'll find something that you will enjoy over at MSTmerch.com. On to the next set, we have Vanquish Soul Dr. Madlove. So this card's a pretty interesting one for the Vanquish Soul deck, being a level 4 that can search for a Vanquish Soul spell or trap on summon. Its other effects aren't too crazy relevant. I think the thing that makes Mad Love not as great as people would like is the fact that Stake Your Soul isn't technically a Vanquish Soul card, so Mad Love can't search for it. However, it is widely believed that there will be Vanquish Soul support released soon, and so several Vanquish Soul cards have actually seen buyouts on the secondary market. In the 2024 tins, we actually saw a couple of Vanquish Soul cards get reprinted. I believe it was just Raisin and Stake Your Soul. Now, back when the tins dropped, Mad Love saw a bit of a price spike. It was still a good card for Vanquish Soul, but it wasn't reprinted, so we saw it go from being $2 or $3 right up to the $11 mark. Since then, the card had fallen a little bit to around $8 to $9, but then with the sudden hype for Vanquish Soul cards we've seen once again, we've seen it bounce back up a little bit more to around the $12 to $13 range. I feel like with Vanquish Soul cards, a bunch of them should be reprinted soon, since it feels so weird that Raisin and Stake Your Soul would get reprinted, but all of the others didn't, especially when a lot of them were Ultras and Wild Survivors, so they weren't exactly easy to pull. This is one that, if I were you guys, definitely keep a playset if you are a fan of the deck or you want to play it, since that design is really cool, but definitely move your other copies just in case that reprint does come. So another theme from Wild Survivors that's believed to be getting support soon is the Nouvelles deck. For those of you that don't remember, this is an archetype that's based around Hungry Burger, which is actually a pretty funny card. The Nouvelles archetype obviously isn't exactly good. It's definitely more of a gimmick strategy. However, there are a ton of rumors that the deck will be getting more support soon, which is causing the cards to get some attention, and the one we're looking at here is Nouvelles Restaurant at Table. Now, At Table is actually a really good card on its own, and if another archetype got a card like this, it would be completely broken. This card adds a recipe from your deck or graveyard to your hand on activation. It lets you put a ritual monster from your hand to the bottom of your deck in order to draw a card, and then also, during the end phase, you take 2 cards from your graveyard, one of them being a recipe, the other one can be absolutely anything. You put them to the bottom of your deck, and then you get to draw another card as well. So yeah, really awesome. It's for Nouvelles, right? So no one has really ever taken this card too seriously. However, the sudden attention for the card has driven its price crazy. This was basically a $5 card for most of its lifetime, but with this recent hype, it has surged up to between $25 and $30, and there's barely any available listings on TCG Player at the time I'm filming this. It's always the cards that are so cheap at first that see the craziest jumps in price. This reminds me a lot, actually, of like Mementos with Bone Party and Anguish and how cheap they were at the beginning. I really do just wonder, though, if Nouvelles are actually going to be good someday, or if the design of the theme and the way that the cards are meant to be played is just too completely flawed. Just like with Mad Love, this card only has one printing, so if it were to get support in the near future, I would definitely be wary of a similarly timed reprint. Here's a fun one. We have the Ritual spell card Mitsurugi Ritual. So this card is a key piece of the TCG exclusive theme that came out in Supreme Darkness, known as the Mitsurugi. Basically, you can ritual summon in one of 2 ways with this card, where you tribute from your deck to special summon from your hand, or you tribute from hand to special summon from deck. So it is a really good way for the deck to not be so dependent on giving up hand and field resources, which has always been a bit of a problem for ritual strategies. Of course, they only have 1 wave of support so far, and we should be getting the second half of the cards in Alliance Insight, which is the next upcoming core set. The Mitsurugi cards were really popular when combined with Ryziel for a little while there. Everyone seemed to think that they were going to be amazing and it was going to be really popular for a couple of events. However, I do think that people generally just thought that the deck was a little bit too bricky, where even though it did have a higher ceiling, it wasn't nearly as consistent as it needed to be, so it really fell off in favor of pure and Fiendsmith Ryziel variants instead. We'll see what happens with the second wave of support, though of course we don't know if that means that the cards are going to work better with Ryziel, or if they'll actually be able to function as their own independent strategy now. With Mitsurugi Ritual, this was a really expensive card for a while after its release. It was actually a solid $20 to $25 card for when Mitsurugi Ryziel was popular. However, it had fallen down to around $10 to $12 each, with the deck falling off. Now, with new support due to be coming out soon, we've seen the card jump all the way back up to around the $20 to $22 mark. We've not yet seen just how good the Mitsurugi Ryziel cards are going to be, but given that the card has already rebounded in price, you might want to consider holding off for a little bit before going and picking these up. Alright, so here's one that was probably pretty easy to see coming. We have number C104, Umbral Horror Masquerade. So if you've paid attention recently, you'll have noticed that we've seen a bunch of number cards seeing use recently because of 7th Tachyon, including 102, 103, 104, 105, C101, C102, and C103. Now basically with all of them, you're just playing them to search your deck for a level 4 or 5 monster that has a certain type or attribute. Well, it would make sense that with 7th Tachyon being such a new card, a bunch of the new cards that Konami is releasing are able to make use of it. So here we're talking about number C104 being used in K9s. The K9 deck is a level 5 focus strategy, and a couple of monsters from the theme are darks, so you can reveal C104 in order to search for them with 7th Tachyon. And this seems to be what the deck is doing early on, based on some early K9 deck lists that have topped over in the OCG. With C104, as we see with a bunch of other Chaos numbers, they aren't generally that playable, so most of them don't have easily accessible reprints. That said, C104 was ever only printed in Judgment of the Light, and so we see both versions at some pretty crazy prices, with the alties up at 20 to 25, and then even the super rares up at 15. I feel like if anything, this should be a common in an OTS tournament pack, but the next one isn't due until like June. Maybe there's a chance that we could see this card even reprinted in Justice Hunters itself, especially if 7th Tachyon is a card that Konami is currently trying to push. And finally, the last card we're going to touch on here is Chronomaly Vimana. So this card is a generic rank 5 Xyz monster, and it's actually pretty cool. It lets you boost its attack points, and it's also a monster effect negation, so actually a really solid standalone card. Now currently this card is an extra deck option that's seeing play in the K9 strategy. They're not exactly the best deck, but Dragon Tales, Yummy, and K9 are actually all proving to be pretty decent decks in the format over there, and I believe the assumption is that all the decks should be similarly strong over here as well. Now with this one, there isn't too much to say about it. It was originally an ultra rare in Dawn of Majesty from a couple of years ago. It did get a rare reprint in the 2024 tins. Naturally, however, the only holo printing, and the card's highest rarity version is what people are after. So we're seeing ultra copies of Vimana moving at around $2 each. This is actually still relatively low, especially for an extra deck card that's just a negate, so I feel like this card has the potential to go a little bit higher in price. Maybe grab a copy or two just in case, or if you can pick these up for $1 or $2 in trades at your locals, I do think that it's not a bad pickup that does have some upside potential. Alright guys, that is all I have for today's episode. Definitely an interesting last week or so. Hopefully we're going to see some more stuff related to the Quarter Century Stampede set over the next couple of weeks, because that set, I believe it's going to be coming out in like just 2 or 3 weeks, so really not that far away. If you guys did enjoy today's Market Watch episode, please make sure you let me know by hitting that thumbs up button. Make sure you leave a comment in the comment section down below. Hit subscribe if you haven't already, and until next time guys, don't forget to hold on to your MST.TV.